If you look at the seat breakdown, the DA has got 57 seats in 120, so it needs alliance partners, 4 alliance partners, at least 4 seats. The ACDP has got 1 seat. They've worked with the ACDP in a coalition before. UDM, they've also worked with a coalition in Cape Town before. That's 2 seats. And then you've got COPE, which has been the DA's partner in a number of municipalities in the Western Cape prior to these elections. So that gives you 61. There are also a couple of smaller parties like the Patriotic Alliance and the African Independent Congress, which is the group representing the Matial residents. So there is an option. Just the one point that needs to be noted, based on the Cape Town Helen Zille, miraculous coalition. If you have too small a coalition, then you've got to drag sick people through to meetings. You've got to be careful when you go to the bathroom if you've got only a coalition of 1. So maybe the DA wants a slightly bigger coalition than 1. But the point being, they can do it without the EFF.
Well, talking about the EFF, and they've been touted as being among the chief kingmakers in these elections, depending on which way the coalitions go. I mean, you would have heard Malema earlier saying, we're not going to talk to anyone, you guys come to us if you want us to be in a coalition with yourself. But it is an interesting dynamic, the notion of kingmakers, and the EFF, from your point of view, not necessarily the kingmakers in Nelson Mandela Bay, but in other areas, yes.
Well, a couple of interesting. Firstly, Dalian Porfo said exactly the opposite thing last night, saying that the EFF will entertain coalitions. But the one point, and if the DA excludes the EFF from a Nelson Mandela coalition, it'll be quite difficult trying to convince them to go into Johannesburg or a Shwani coalition.
So there could be a domino effect, in other words.
Yeah, that's correct. There may be a negotiated package across all 3 metros.
Whether it's Port Elizabeth, Mandela Bay Metro, or any of the other metros that you've referred to, the EFF itself are going to want something in return for their loyalty. They carry an enormous amount of leverage as we speak tonight, surely.
Most certainly. I mean, if maybe you could have a working majority in Nelson Mandela Bay, but certainly if you don't have it in Johannesburg and you don't have it in Tshwane, you're not going to have an effective working majority. And that can be quite unstable. So it does give them a leverage point. You would think that the kind of negotiation is going to be something along the line of giving them some of the infrastructural portfolios. In other words, the portfolios where they can make a real difference to the poor, if in fact this is actually going to occur.
And the divvying up of executive positions. One more question on the types of coalitions that could present themselves. I mean, what you described now is one type. Is there room to play with the way these permutations happen?
Well, I mean, you can have a coalition is normally some kind of agreement around, a common program of action of more than one political party. But you can have a working arrangement where, in fact, political parties would support the majority party, which won't have 50% of plurality. They're going to support them on a need-to basis. Just the one thing, and this is one of the problems with coalitions, by law, you've got to pass a budget. If, in fact, the coalition is so unstable, you can't pass a budget, you can have a problem. We've seen that from the Oudtshoorn saga, which lingered on for about 2-3 years.
So what is the consequence then of a hung council, so to speak? Do you call more by-elections?
Well, I'm not too sure whether by-elections are actually going to solve the issues, unless, of course, there's a major change of voter support. In this regard, there's no easy way out of it. I mean, we had a situation in the Western Cape somewhere in the late 2000s, where Saldanha municipality had 6 coalitions in 2 years. So every time there's a new coalition, the IDP got changed, there was new manager put in place. And it led to a great deal of instability.
But Iman, surely, no work gets done.
And it's self-defeating.
Well, it is. But we just hope that some common sense will prevail, that at least there could be some kind of minimum agreement in this regard. You see, the other possibility was a grand coalition between the ANC and the DA, but both parties, at least this point in time, seem dead against it.